The fact that Al Tompkins is here also says something. He is one of the giants in broadcast news. He is the person that so many professionals turn to when they say, hey, what about? And so the fact that he's here for the next hour and 15 minutes to share some of his knowledge is awesome. I'm not going to bother with his biography. You've read it, it's out there. He's heard it, it's out there. I would like to mention Aim for the Heart. That's the book that he's written. I believe it's on its third printing right now. It's the kind of book that is actually useful in the classroom. It's useful to teachers and students, useful for working journalists, so you might want to check that out. This session is going to last for an hour and 15 minutes. Again, put yourself on mute unless you'd like to say something, and then, speak up. This session is also being recorded, so the entire thing, including Al's two other earlier sessions, will be available to STN affiliates and members. And this is the third out of three sessions that Al has given today on talking about alternate facts and revealing, as he says, truth decay. With that, I will shut up. I'll let Al take over. Enjoy.
All right, so this is my favorite of the three sessions because we're now going to put some tools to use that you probably have never seen before. So this is going to be a really fun session. I want you to be highly interactive, ask lots of questions, and you may have other ways that you do what I'm going to do. And if so, feel free to share those with us. I always find that these STN sessions are terrific sort of brain dumps where we all can share for each other. Feel free to use any of this that you want, your classroom. You have blanket permission to do that. Anything I can do to help, please let me help you. And by the way, I'm sort of feeling all of your pain. I imagine a number of you are in extreme cold weather and snow and ice and stuff today. I'm in Florida, so I don't literally feel your pain, but I have on my monitors here, I have a number of scenes of snow and ice and all kinds of bad stuff going on where you are. And so please be safe. All right, so let's get going. I want to start by asking the question of where did that photo come from? And we're going to use some diagnostic tools to try to get to some answers about where did a picture come from? Where did a video come from? Where did that information come from? So with every photograph that you capture today, unless it's on film, with every single digital image, whether it's on a phone, whether it's on a DSLR, whether it's on a video camera, anything that's captured on a card or any kind of memory, leaves a trail, a hidden metadata trail. And I'm going to show you how to find that metadata trail. So this is a picture of my son, and the question really is, where is he? So is he where he seems to be, or is he in front of a green screen, for example, or something like that? So in a matter of just seconds, you can find it. By the way, the data for any image, any document, stays with that image or document until it's removed or altered. So I want to add this caution, and that is to say that the metadata that I'm going to show you, I consider to be a clue, not an answer, because it's possible for someone to fake metadata. It's possible for someone to remove metadata. It's possible for all sorts of things. Just know that it's a clue. It's not an answer. That's my big caveat. So if you were going to make a screen capture of something, I would recommend screen capturing this because you're going to need it. It's called Jeffrey's Viewer. That's all you got to remember, really. You don't have to remember the regex URL, but just remember Jeffrey's Viewer, and then you can just look for that in Google. Jeffrey's Viewer. This is going to be a game changer for some of you. So with Jeffrey's Viewer, all you have to do is a couple of things. If you want to find out the metadata on an image, then you can either drag that image in, or you can paste in the URL of that image, and it will do the search for you. So let's just do that. I'm going to go back to that photo of my son. I'm going to pull it off of my desktop right there and open. And it's going to say, fine, I'm going to read it now. View image data. So it's going to say, oh, I see the image data now. See that it was an Apple iPhone 6 Plus. I see that it was captured March 23rd, 2018. I can see the latitude and longitude, which maps to First Street, Southwest Washington, D.C., and it actually even places it on a map and will show you which direction the camera was facing at as it was facing the United States Capitol. So, in a period of seconds, we've been able to place the photograph on a map, show when it was captured, and show even on what kind of device it was captured. Phenomenal. You can get even the latitude and longitude there. All right. What else will it show? Lots. So, as you go down the file, you will find that it also includes all sorts of things, including whether or not the photograph has been altered. It'll show you whether or not it's been photoshopped. It'll show you all sorts of things. Um, and all of that data is constantly writing with that image until it is either removed or altered. Okay. And so if you have a photograph, for example, if you see a photograph on a website and you right click on it, you will get the URL and just paste that URL into Jeffrey's viewer and you can do the background on it. So what about social media? Well, if you did that with a photograph that was on Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook, Twitter, you wouldn't get this. Why? Because all of those social media platforms that I just named monetize that data. So they're not going to pass it along because it's incredibly valuable to them to know where you were, to know when you were there, and so on. All of that data for them is incredibly valuable, which of course is also how they also do facial recognition and all that stuff. And so they are, these are the kinds of things that they would use. For example, I just got an image sent to me today from 5 years ago that was me and some of my family. And it said, this was you 5 years ago. It's really cool. And then after really cool wears off, it's like, oh, that's really creepy because they've been holding on to that photograph for 5 years, waiting for this day to send it to me. And I get almost every day, I get one of those reminders. You probably do too. At the end of the year, they compile these photo books, and you think, oh, that's really cool. Oh, that's really creepy. They've been keeping all these photographs of me as they do for millions and millions and millions of other people around the world. So they are monetizing all of this stuff that you upload, which is vitally important, as you remember. All right, back to the metadata. Let's put it into real application. So Donald Trump, on the occasion of him testing positive for COVID, went to the Bethesda Naval Hospital in Bethesda, Maryland, and the White House released a couple of photographs of the president doing hard work. And what I wanted to know is these two images seem to show the president in two different settings, two different tables, working away, one with a coat on, one with a coat off. And what I wanted to know is, golly, did this guy just work the whole time he was there? Because that's sure what it looks like, right? But when you click on the metadata, you find some very interesting things. So the first image, you will find that it was October 3rd, 2020, and you'll find that the first image was at 5:25:59 p.m. 5:25:59. Remember that, 5:25:59. And you'll notice that he has three folders in front of him. And one of those folders, the one on the bottom, has two paper clips, one in the middle and one over on the, as it's facing us, the right side. And he's working away. Then the second photograph, 5:35:40. When was the other one? It's just minutes before. So what they did is they took exactly the same folders, moved them over. You can see the same folder. They took the exact same folders, moved them over to another table, told him to take his coat off, and a period of minutes later, ended up taking another picture of him working away. All we can say for sure is that these two photographs were minutes away from each other, and that they were captured and distributed through the photographic pool. And you wouldn't have known this if you hadn't looked at the metadata. The metadata tells you all you want to know about where did they come from, when they captured, who captured them, and so on. That I thought was interesting. Now, does this mean that he didn't work all day and that, no, it doesn't mean any of that. It just means that if you're going to use these photographs, you know to write that they were captured a few minutes from each other. And and it would also be fair for you to point out that whatever he's doing with those files, they're the same files, apparently. I said in the last session that my wife and I took a trip out west upon her retirement a couple of years ago, and I took a bunch of pictures, bunch of pictures, and pretty soon the waterfalls all started looking kind of alike to me, and I couldn't remember exactly which one was which, and so on. And so one of the things that you can do is you can use these very same kind of tools to remind you of where you were and what you're looking at. So very much like using Jeffrey's Viewer, you can do the same thing with a website. This is open source free website called TinEye. TinEye does not track you, doesn't hold on to your files, nothing like that. And with TinEye, all you got to do, once again, is quite literally drag the photograph onto the page, and it will tell you where that photograph was captured, because it will compare your picture of Yosemite to the millions of other pictures of Yosemite that somebody captured exactly the same way, show you how creative you are. And you can see where that image is. So there were, pictures that it compared to, photographs taken in 2013, 2014, 2018, 2017, so on. So this is one way for you to figure out, what am I looking at? If there's a photograph of a building or of a person, of a place, and so on, you're trying to figure out, what is that? Just drag it into TinEye, and it will try to identify other images that look very much like that. Now, I'm going to now give you another faster way to do this. So what I've shown you are individual little search engines that you can use to do photographic searches, what we call back searches, reverse engine searches. But now I'm going to show you a tool that combines 5 of the most powerful photographic search engines into one search. So with one click, you're going to be able to launch 5 search engines that will do a simultaneous search for whatever photograph you're looking for. In order to do this, you're going to have to get onto Google Chrome. And one of the reasons that I use Google Chrome is because it has stuff like this, Google add-ons, that you can use to do this kind of work. So I use Google Chrome simply because it has this kind of functionality that works really, really well for me. So the first thing you're going to do is just Google the phrase Google add-ons. And when you get there, you're going to get a return. It says Google Chrome Web Store extensions, and you're going to click on that. So you're going to Google the phrase Google add-ons. It's going to return the Chrome Web Store. You click on that, and now you're going to look for an app called RevEye, like reverse eye, RevEye, and you're going to click on that. And what this is going to do is, in a period of about 10 seconds, it will take RevEye and it will drop it up on your toolbar. So up there where you enter in a URL, it's going to just drop this eyeball up there on your toolbar, and it just sits there. You don't have to do anything else with it. But once you have this installed, you're going to be able to do some pretty amazing stuff. Okay. And it's open source, it's free. All right. By the way, let me use this as an opportunity to say be very, very selective about what you put up on your toolbar. So, not all extensions can be trusted. Some of them are tracking, and some of them are viruses. So, be really careful about what you add up there. Some of them are real junk. Use only name brand things, things that people have tested out. I've been using RevEye for years. Many, many, many people have, and it's just golden. But be really careful about these extensions, okay? Because some of them are evil. All right, so RevEye. What are we going to do? Once you've got RevEye, then anytime you're on a photograph and you want to know the history of that photograph, you just right click the photograph and up will come up this dialog box. Click on reverse image search, then click on all search engines. And you can see it's going to launch 5 search engines: Google, Bing, Yandex, Tenai, and Baidu. And so it will just launch all 5 of those. And so it will search millions and millions and millions of images trying to find that image that you're searching to see if it can find a match, and you can find out where it came from. Okay, so I'm going to go back through those one more time. If you want to do screen captures, I'll try to go slow enough. So you're going to go to Google. You're going to Google the phrase Google add-ons, right? Then you're going to click on Chrome Web Store extensions. Then you're going to search for RevEye reverse search, and you're going to add that to your toolbar. Once it's on your toolbar, you don't have to do anything else with it. It just sits there. From that point forward, anytime you see a photograph that you want to do a photo search on, a back search, then you just click on the photo, click up reverse image search, and then all search engines, and it will launch 5 search engines. And there you go. All right. So let's put it into real life. I'll do one in real time for you. So here's a picture that purports to be the former vice president of the United States with a fly on his head. If you remember, this was a pretty famous moment. Well, during a debate, a fly landed on his head. um, so let's say for a moment you wake up the next day and you go, "What is this? This photograph of this fly? What's the history on that?" All you'd have to do, because you have put RevEye up on your toolbar, and as you can see up here, see, it's sitting on my toolbar. See it? So up here, so you can follow my cursor up here, just sitting up here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on him, and the dialog box will open up. So I'm going to click on the photo. The dialog box opens up, and then I'm just going to launch the search. Okay, here we go. Reverse image search, all search engines. It just launched 5 search engines. And now with those 5 search engines open, I can start clicking through, and it says, that looks like a picture of the vice president. And if you say, you know what, you're giving me a bunch of pictures of the vice president, but I really, really, really want just a close-up of the vice president, not a bunch of white-haired men. Oh, okay, now I know what you're looking for. I said, well, that's not enough. I want Pence with a fly. It'll say, okay, I know what to search for. Photos of Pence with a fly. Got it, right? And so now what it's going to do is it's going to just search for photos of Pence with a fly on his head. And in a period of seconds, I'm able to get to sources of this photograph for me to be able to determine whether or not the photograph is reliable. Um, so uh, it's an amazing tool because I can see the history of that photograph. All right. Law enforcement also uses similar techniques, and I want to walk you through a couple of these kinds of searches just so you can get an idea as to how powerful this kind of a tool is. So um, here was a story that suggested, it was a social media post that said that Joe Biden doesn't wear a mask on a plane, but he wears one outside. And it shows a picture of him wearing one outside, but not wearing one on an airplane. And it said, well, what a two-faced liar he is. What I want to know is, where did that photograph on the left come from? All I'd have to do is right click on that. And when I right click on it, um, I can see that the photograph actually came from Vogue magazine in 2019. The photograph came from Vogue magazine in 2019, and it was a picture. So November of 2019 was prior to the pandemic, and it was a picture of of Biden talking to Yamamoto, who was I think a traveling press secretary for Biden. Both photographs at the bottom are accurate. That is to say, he is wearing a mask, and he wasn't wearing a mask when he was talking to her. But he was talking to her in that photograph in November of 2019, and I can find that out in less than 30 seconds of work. So Europol, which is the International Police Agency for Interpol, Europol has started using remnants from crime scenes, and they're asking people to do exactly what I've just shown you how to do. And that is, they're putting up little remnants of a shirt, a logo, a piece of a sofa, so on. And they're asking people, would you use your skills as a group, as a crowd, and see if you can help us to figure out anything about this to help us solve this crime. And it's amazing. For example, they'll say this is a very specific type of trash bin that is related somehow to some crime that they're investigating. Does anybody know where this trash bin is, for example? So I decided that I would do a couple of examples to show you how to do this. So this was one of them that I was really interested in. It was a crime scene photograph, an object in a crime scene photograph. And I just sort of clicked on it. It turns out that it's a remnant from a coffee tray. And there's no doubt that that's what it is. And if you do just a little more searching, you can find out that these coffee trays are very commonly offered in Belarus for whatever reason. They're little coffee shops, and they're quite commonly available. And so I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Nothing. It just means that I know what it is. It's a coffee tray. And I know a place where you can find it, and that's this gift shop at a hotel in Belarus. So they wanted to know, can anybody identify this room? Because it turns out that there was a child abuse gang that had photographs, and that the photographs included this room. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting, because that's a really distinctive room. And I'll bet with not very much work, we could look at this room and figure out where the room is. And what caught my eye about this was that the lights are very different, that it's odd that the painting in there is the same, the mat around the painting is the same color as the wall, exactly the same color. And that the privacy curtain going into the bathroom wasn't a curtain at all or a door. It's a bead. It's beads. It's like plastic glass beads. And that there's this thing on the wall that if you look at the foot of the bed and then go up, you'll see this thing on the wall, a wooden box. It almost looks like a pay telephone box or something. Um, the frame around the bed is unusual. I just thought, you know what, this shouldn't be that hard to match. And so I just decided, let's go on a little hunt here. So we're just going to do a reverse image search, all search engines, and see if we can find that photograph somewhere. And lo and behold, we get some really interesting matches. Now, the match that we started with the photograph on the left, and as you can see, we got some matches that look close. You can see that there are differences in the walls. It's mostly keying on the bedspread, that thing at the bottom. It's looking at colors mostly. But if you just sort of look through the page a little bit, you'll find that there are some that are closer than others to what we're trying to find. And if you just gotta kind of scroll through them and see if you can find your answer. And it turns out um, that I did find an answer, and I found this answer. So let me see if I can satisfy myself that this is the right room. And so I'm looking at all sorts of things. First of all, I'm looking at the beaded curtain. It's exactly the same beaded curtain. I have no doubt that's the beaded curtain. You can even see a shelf in the background back there where there is a, a, a bottle of something. Um, let's see if I can point to it. I don't think I can. There's a bottle of something on the shelf, but it's in both photographs. But you can see that wooden box is there, made out of the same colored wood, which is interesting. You can see the lights are exactly the same. You can see that the artwork is exactly the same, framed exactly the same. And you can see the bed is exactly the same. I have no doubt this is it. This is the right place. It's got a doorway that goes out right next to that wooden box. There's just uh, there's just too many pieces of this that fit exactly the same. It's got to be at minimum. It's got to be part of the same chain. If it's not exactly the same place. And so now that I know that I can match this, the question is, well, who posted the photograph on the right, and where did they post it? Again, metadata. So I can see that it was posted and it was identified as Marlin Creek 3. Well, okay, I'm in. Show me where Marlin Creek 3 is. And it says, oh, here it is. And here's directions and so on. Well, all I got to do now is click on the map and we can get a full view as to where this is. It's on an island off the coast of Madagascar, off the coast of Africa. So, in a period of just a very few minutes, I have gone from a photograph that Europol wanted to try to identify based on the sketchiest information. And just by using Revi, I'm able to match it with a photograph that somebody somewhere posted. We're able to see a number of data points that seem to match. And then we're able to say that it came from a hotel called Marlin Creek, and we're able to map that on a map. Incredible. And all in a period of what, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I'm going to pause for a second. What questions do you have? Okay, I'm going to keep going. Ask questions. Just flip on your microphone and join in. So I'm happy to answer for you. All right. Disinformation causing disruption. Um, Forgive me just for a second. I'm going to show you a disturbing image, but I'm going to tell you that there is a reason for me to show you the disturbing images. So you remember when there was a movie that came out that was very important called Black Panther. It was the first animated film that had a black superhero. And I knew in my bones that the moment that Black Panther was launched, that there would be fake posts somewhere. It just was so right for this kind of thing that somebody would post images saying that they had been attacked while attending Black Panther. And knowing the public as I do, I wasn't at all disappointed to find that they did exactly what I knew they would do. I went to see Black Panther with my girlfriend, and a black teenager shouted, "You at the wrong theater," and smashed a bottle on her face. Okay, so my first thought was, um, if your girlfriend had just been beaten up with a glass bottle and was bleeding profusely, would your first instinct be to take a photograph on her? Mine would not be. It turns out that just by doing a reverse image search, like I've taught you, you will find that that image wasn't captured on February 16th, 2018. In fact, it was captured on January 31st, 2018. It was a real incident. It was a teen who was hit with a bottle after she rejected some groper's advances, and it happened in Sweden. So it was a real incident that was reported by the news in Sweden, but it wasn't. It didn't have anything to do with Black Panther. They just found a photograph of a bloody girl and used that as their fake post. Then there were many more. Tonight went to see Black Panther premiere with my girlfriend, was assaulted. Three black women approached us and one said, "This movie ain't for you, white bitch," and then attacked her. Security escorted us to the parking lot and we left, just wanted to see a movie. I was pretty sure I knew that black eye, that I had seen it before. And lo and behold, it was a picture of Rob Porter's wife. If you remember, Rob Porter was a White House aide who beat up his wife and was dismissed from his job in the early days of the Trump administration. So I thought I remembered that black eye, and it turns out that's who it was. Was at the Black Panther premiere, but a group of black youth said this movie wasn't for me. I'm white. They then proceeded to assault me. I'm heading for the ER now. Picture of them, I guess, washing blood into the sink. All we got to do is right click and rev eye this one, and we can find out that's not what it is at all. In fact, photograph was taken years earlier. 2009 was the first time it was used right there. And it was her removing some fake blood from a Halloween costume right there. So we know that the first time that image was used was Halloween 2009, not 2018 when Black Panther came out. So again, look, this isn't brain surgery. It doesn't take much time to do. It just takes your awareness that you need to do this if you're going to get to the truth, right? It's possible for the photograph to be a real photograph. Again, go back to the first session that we had together. It's possible for something to be accurate but not true. It lacks context. Remember, accuracy plus context equals truth. It's not enough for the photograph to be real.
Al, there is a question from the room. This is Ken sitting in the
Hi,
back.
go ahead.
Ed McDonough had a question. First of all, he said, this is fascinating, but he said, can you give any examples of applications for student journalism?
Sure. Um, so anytime you've got a photograph of someone who allegedly was in a crowd, I can tell you that Mr. Smith, Mr. Yamamoto didn't wear a mask while he was teaching us today, and there's a photograph of Mr. Yamamoto not wearing a mask while he's teaching. Look, you'd need to be able to verify where that photograph came from. And so what you'd want to do is to be able to go backwards to show that that photograph was captured 2 years ago. And so it's a way for you to know when and where something occurred and whether it's ever been posted before and altered and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean it's a very practical kind of application. And students, here's the thing: is that we are so acclimated to the idea that seeing is believing. If you hear something, you say, "Is there a picture of that?" Yeah, here's a picture. Golly, yeah, I mean that looks exactly like my school. It must be right. Well, it might be right, but it might be from 2 years ago. It might be from last week. And you need to be able to verify it. So this is a way to be able to do that. A lot of these stories have to do with viruses, right? Here's uh, photographs of the virus not being treated seriously, or of people asleep while they're taking class or whatever. Well, that could be a real picture of a kid sleeping, or it might not be. It might be a picture of some generic kid from years ago. It might be a piece of photo stock that they bought for 99 cents. So you just have to be able to verify images because they're so believable. This is one of my favorites. This was my friend went to the Black Panther premiere, who was brutally beaten for not belonging here. Very sad. And some of you who are from, you're big fans of the Night of the Dead kind of films. Uh, this is him getting his makeup on. So people who sort of Walking Dead um, fans sort of get this because that's a reasonably famous Walking Dead image, and he's a reasonably famous Walking Dead character. But anyway, that's what the photograph is. It's a Walking Dead character. So let me put this into action and show you how I use this in real life. Um, One Friday night, I was sitting in my living room, and my wife and I were getting ready to go out to dinner. Remember when we used to do that? And this came on. So it was on CNN, and Anderson Cooper was interviewing somebody named Alyssa Andrews, who said that she had witnessed a shooting outside of a VA hospital in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and that the shooter was a city employee, and that there were at least 11 dead in this mass shooting. And almost immediately after they started reporting this, there were rumors online that it was fake, that it was all what they call a crisis actor. And crisis actor, the allegation about crisis actors is that they are the same people who go sort of from disaster to disaster, and they're just acting like they were part of some crime, some mass shooting. And there are all sorts of alleged reasons why they might do such a thing to help gin up support for banning guns, all sorts of things. But it didn't take long for them to start this too. So I'm going to play a couple of pieces of video. This is Alyssa Andrews on CNN. Okay, so in that very brief piece of sound, Alyssa Andrews gave me a lot that I could use to do some fact checking, some basic fact checking to see whether or not Alyssa Andrews is real and whether this photograph that she said she took using a dashboard camera makes any sense. Does it seem like something that could be real that actually went on there? Because they used her photograph, two of them. They used her two photographs, and they used her eyewitness account and said that it was true that this had occurred. So I see that it's Alyssa Andrews. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look up Alyssa Andrews. So the doubters and conspiracy theorists were already crazy on this. Here is a sample of them. No, you want to take pictures? This guy obviously was sprayed and squirted with blood to make it look like a real bear. That does not look real at all. That is 100% fake. Something about that. So the rumors were already starting on 4chan and 8chan and Reddit and other places that this was a fake shooting, that these were crisis actors, and so on and so on. So what I wanted to know is, wait, is this probably something that happened? So if you go back to what Alyssa Andrews said, she gave us a lot of clues. Remember, she said she was an RN. She said that she worked at the VA hospital, and we know where this allegedly occurred. So the first thing we're going to do is look up Alyssa Andrews and see what else we would find. Um, Also, she posted this interesting other photograph too, which also gives us some stuff to work with. So I can't exactly see what sheriff's department that is, but I can see that the logo on his sleeve says sheriff. So I could look up Virginia Beach, Virginia, and look up the sheriff's department and see if the logo matches. That would be an easy thing to do. I could easily do that with the Rev-I. But I'm going to do a couple of other things. I'm going to look first at that license plate to see whether or not the car is real. Virginia allows me to look up the license plate. I'm just going to do XDE 6161, and I can see it does in fact come back to a Nissan Rogue. That's a 2013 Nissan Rogue, and I could actually look at the registration if I wanted. Because it's a dashboard camera, I can also see that she said that she captured this image just a very short time ago, and that it's 84 degrees. And so what I'm going to do very quickly is go over to Weather Central and see what the temperature is, and it's 84 degrees. So it turns out that that's matching up. So far, the car that is in the background matches up to the real car. So far, the temperature matches just fine. So I have so far nothing that leads me to believe this isn't real. Let's look up Alyssa Andrews. Remember, she said that she was an RN and that she was an RN there in Virginia. And she also mentioned in the interview that she was sitting there with her grandson, her 2-year-old grandson. And so I thought it'd be interesting to see if I can find an Alyssa Andrews who lives in that area. And it was really easy to do. I can see that there is an Alyssa Andrews who is a registered nurse at the Veterans Administration Medical Center. Yep, I can also see that this person is a person who appears to have some grandchildren that could be in that age range. That's possible, probable. Let's look up her license and see if she is, in fact, a real registered nurse. And it turns out she is. Turns out that there is such a person who is a real registered nurse, and it all sort of fits. It looks as though it's going to work. I did this lookup on 6/02/2019, and her license was still valid at that time. So in just a period of a minute and a half, 2 minutes of searching, um, did I verify her story? No. But what I did do is a basic amount of search to see whether there was a major gaping hole in her story. Is there an Alyssa Andrews who is a registered nurse in that area, who works for the Veterans Administration, has a grandchild in all probability? Does the weather fit, and so on? And then do I actually see that there was a shooting that occurred there based on official sources? And I was able to affirm that as well. I did not prove her story to be true, but what I did do was make an attempt to see if I could poke a hole in it, and I could not. And so I default to believing her until I start seeing things that make me think that it's not true, some obvious thing. So again, we're sort of doing this lateral reading where we start with something, the doubters begin raising questions. We start doing some matching just on basic data. We look for some social media data, some licensure data, and it's it's possible, probable. We're leaning toward true. We're not leaning toward the doubters. Just saying that there's no way that could be true is just not good enough. You got to base that on something, right? All right. The liar's dividend is something that I want to put in front of you. One of the problems with all this fact checking stuff is that you have to make some judgments about when you're going to report that something is false. So, liar's dividend, for example, if Senator Smith tweeted a photo that said it shows Senator Jones burning an American flag, and then Senator Jones says that the photo of the burning flag was a fake. The danger here is that if you do a story that says Senator Jones says the photo of him burning a flag was a fake, there are two things that you've repeated, and that is Senator Jones and burning an American flag. And this is what I mean by the liar's dividend. You have to be really thoughtful about how you set the record straight once bad information is out there. Because if all you do is repeat the allegation along with the denial, then what what a normal person is likely to take out of that is that this person did something wrong. All I remember is that it had something to do with Senator Jones burning a flag, right? Now, um, Donald Trump was particularly good at this by saying, I don't know if it's true, but I hear so and so. And then it would get repeated over and over and over again. And CNN would fall apart every time. They would say, "Well, it's not true that that Senator Jones did so and so," and they would repeat it over and over and over again, which is exactly the reason for planting it to start with, is to start the rumor, right? Um, I just think this is one of the real problems that journalists haven't confronted, and that is how to effectively set the record straight when there is something that's false or misleading that you're trying to correct. My intuition is um, a photograph or an allegation that Senator Jackson made yesterday is not true. He untruthfully said yesterday that another senator was so and so. But again, it wasn't true. And you'd almost have to come back 2 or 3 times to affirm that what's important in this is that he was not right. He was untrue. In order to correct the lie, you have to repeat the lie to explain the truth. That's the liar's dividend. And that's one of the big problems that comes with being in the fact-checking business. All right, I'm going to pause just for a second, see if there's any questions or comments, and then we're going to do an exercise to test our critical thinking skills. Don't be so quiet. Hang in there. Talk to me. It's late at night where I am. All right, here we go. Caitlin, you're first on my list here. Open up your microphone, would you? Here's Caitlin. Here's Caitlin. Come on, Caitlin. There you go.
Hi.
Hi, Caitlin. Is your last name, is it Lopez?
Yes.
But it's spelled way differently.
Yeah, I know. It's spelled with an S. That's a lot of people pronounce my last name as Lopes.
Yeah, but I was thinking, I bet it's not Lopes. All right. So we're going to watch this commercial, Caitlin, and at the end of this commercial, I'm going to ask you some questions, okay? There's no tricks in the commercial. It's a real television commercial, okay?
Okay.
Here we go.
Hey, Al, this is Ken at the back of the room. We're not hearing the audio.
Yeah, I can hear
It
it.
also
Okay.
happened on
All
the
right, stand by,
CNN.
stand by, stand by.
Yep, it also happened on the CNN clip, but it was so brief we didn't bother to interrupt.
I got it. I know what the problem is. Hang on. It's an operator error here. All right, here you go.
Every time you touch a surface,
Now you're hearing it, right?
Yeah.
There we go.
every time you touch a surface, bacteria is left behind. Now consider how many times your family touches the surfaces in your home in 24 hours. Try Microban 24. Spray on hard surfaces to kill 99.9% of viruses and bacteria initially. Once dry, it forms a bacteria shield that keeps killing bacteria for 24 hours, even after multiple touches. Try Microban 24. Available in multi-purpose sanitizing and bathroom sprays. This has been Medifax for Microban 24.
All right. So let me ask you a question or two here. What are they selling?
Sanitizing spray.
Sure. And what does this sanitizing spray promise to do for us?
Kill bacteria.
Okay. Will it help on the coronavirus?
Yes.
Yes. And what will it do to help control the coronavirus? You still there? Did you leave me? Hello?
Yeah, sorry. I couldn't know. It just kind of reloaded for a second. Sorry about that.
That's all right. So what will it do to help fight the coronavirus?
Um, kill any bacteria
Yeah,
left behind on surfaces or anything?
yeah. Here's the thing I would ask you though. Is the coronavirus a bacteria? No, it's a virus.
No, it's a virus.
So will this help the coronavirus?
No, not really.
Every time you touch a surface, bacteria is left behind. Now consider how many times your family touches the surfaces in your home in 24 hours. Try Microban 24. Spray on hard surfaces to kill 99.9% of viruses and bacteria initially.
Now, what did she just say? She just said that it kills 99.9% of viruses and bacteria initially. What does that mean? What does that sentence mean? Read that. See, do you see that blue block right there? Read that block out for me.
Kills 99.9% of viruses and bacteria
Finish
initially.
the sentence. What's the last word? What's the last word right here?
Initially.
Initially. And what does that mean?
Like at first, like beginning.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. It means as soon as you spray this on virus, it kills it. But then what do we know about viruses? Within a nanosecond, it's back.
Yeah, it
All you
comes
have
back.
to do is literally touch the surface and bang, the bacteria and the viruses start again. And look at the bottom of the screen down there. Microban 24 does not provide 24-hour residual virus protection. So while it's good for bacteria, and it says it will kill bacteria, it's effective for 24 hours against Staphylococcus. It's good for bacteria, which is common cold stuff. It's also other creepy stuff that you don't want to be putting in your mouth and so on. But it doesn't do anything for the virus, really. It does not provide 24-hour residual virus protection. In fact, it's not even 30 seconds or 10 seconds of protection against that. So they say the phrase, we'll play it.
9% of viruses and bacteria initially. Once dry, it
Boom.
forms a
That's the
bacteria.
only time they ever mention that. Now, over on the right, it says kills viruses initially only, but you don't ever pay attention to that because other stuff's on the screen. What we're seeing is critical thinking. And I just think this is exactly the kind of thing you could put in front of your students. These kinds of commercials to say, what does this do? Do you need this? Should you be spraying your groceries down? No. Do you need to spray this on door handles? No. Why? Because there is just so little evidence that the virus travels on hard surfaces. It's an airborne virus. It's an airborne virus. We're doing all sorts of stuff that's completely unnecessary because that's not how this virus travels. It's an airborne virus. You inhale it. And so millions, billions of dollars worth of stuff gets sold in the name of fighting the virus, but none of it works because it's not what it's designed to do. It's designed to fight a bacteria, not a virus. As you know, we recently had an election that some people said was contentious. Let's say there was a video showing staffers stuffing ballots in Flint, Michigan. And this video alleges to be that there are people stuffing ballots allegedly at a precinct in Flint, Michigan. And there's actually video of it. This person who seems to be stuffing something, then grabs some more, Stuff some more in there. Walks around kind of aimlessly, disappears. Here's a guy. He's going to stuff some in. Oh, we'll stuff some more in. She kind of had a surreptitious look about her too. So it seems to be something going on here. I mean, who's putting all that stuff in those ballot boxes? Those people aren't supposed to be putting things in the boxes. Those are registrars. Voters are the only ones supposed to be putting anything in those ballot boxes. This must be fraud. What do we know? What do we need to know? How do we know what we know? Well, let's do a photo match. First thing we're going to do is look at those very odd looking diagrams that are over on the voting booth. First of all, it doesn't look like any voting booth I've ever seen. It looks like a shower curtain, but that's a very distinctive logo. If we did a reverse image search on that, I bet you we could find out where that was. Lo and behold, that's the same image that's down there on that box that they're stuffing stuff into. So what is that logo? That's the logo. What is it? It turns out that they are ballot stuffing in Russia. This was actually a precinct in Russia where there was significant ballot stuffing and all these people were convicted of doing it. It wasn't in Flint, Michigan. It was in Russia. And it was actually in 2018. See how this sort of thing can show up? And I can imagine you giving an image like this to students and say, you know, now that I've taught you the skills on how to do it, I want you to find out, where was this taken? You know, the allegation was it was in Flint, Michigan. Where was it really? And just let them go. And it's incredible how fast and easy it is once you've got these tools that we have explored, the photo matching tools. Now let's go into the future a little bit, because what I want to show you is some of what's ahead. So somebody had sent me this video and wanted to know if it was real. It was irrefutable evidence that the U.S. is actually covering ISIS combat units to recover their combat capabilities and redeploy and so on. I don't exactly understand what it is they're alleging, but I had this video that appeared to be an attack on something. And so I was playing the video that I'm about to show you. And my son, who is a cyber crime justice master's degree guy, came behind me. He said, "What are you looking at, Pop?" And I said, "I'm looking at some surveillance video of an attack."
Target detected. Because that wheel's gone. I don't think that vehicle's going to move anymore. It's not there filling out of the vehicle. Correct.
And my son said, "Pop, you know that's not real, right?" I said, "Do tell." He says, "No, that's not real. That's a video game called AC-130 Gunship Simulator, and it's pretty realistic, but it's not real. It's a game." Well, there it is, because it's all over the news, and it's in newscasts where they are actually citing it as evidence on news, actual evidence of gunships killing ISIS. But in fact, it's a simulator. So it seems like it's just so easy to lie to us, and we'll believe it because we actually have video and we don't know better. Without doing a photo check, we wouldn't know, unless you have the luxury that I have of having a son who knows these things. At the risk of turning you into a cynic, I want to spend the last few minutes talking to you about the future, because the future is going to increasingly require your critical examination. One of the things that is now possible is to create a person completely out of whole cloth that does not exist. So this person may look like a real person, but the fact of the matter is she does not exist. In fact, you can turn her into whatever you want her to look like, or maybe you want her to look like him or him. And all of these people end up being used. It's the same person. You can just change them. They look real. They show up in dating sites. They show up in Amazon posts. They show up in customer attachments. They were all just born out of a computer. Whatever ethnicity you want, whether gender you want, hair color, eye color, whatever skin tones you want, whatever you want, you can create, because they're all fake anyway. They all just start with digits. And so there are a few things going on here. One is that none of these people exist. So this isn't just like a composite of a bunch of different people. These people literally do not exist. There is no such person. But they show up a lot these days in generic artwork. They show up a lot these days in advertisements. Why would they use them in advertisements? Because you don't ever have to pay an actor's fee. There's no studio time. You can use exactly the same artwork, only you can change ethnicity and gender and age. You can have multiple messages for multiple platforms without ever having to go out and stage who the people are, because you can just create them. So this is now possible. It's widely used, widely available, and really difficult to detect. There's no way you would look at that image and say, that's not true, that's not real, it's not, there's just no way you would do that, because it looks like it's real. There's nothing about it that would say it wasn't to me. Then there's this video. Now, I think this is one of the more interesting videos that your students would completely fall for. And it allegedly is a video that Richard Nixon made just in case the Apollo astronauts could not get off of the surface of the moon. And remember, it was never a given that this was going to work. It was never a stipulation that these guys would make it home. In fact, there was considerable doubt as to whether or not they would be able to get off the lunar surface. And so there was a widespread rumor that Richard Nixon actually recorded a message just in case.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. Fate has ordained that the men who went to the moon to explore in peace will stay on the moon to rest in peace. These brave men, Neil Armstrong and Edwin Aldrin, know that there's no hope for their recovery. But they also know that there is hope for mankind in their sacrifice.
That video is really, really convincing. And it's 100% fake, completely artificial intelligence. It does not exist. He never said it. He never did it. There was no such recording. So it is fake. And yet, there are so many conversations that you could find online about, uncovered the secret recording of the president recording, the obituary for the lost astronauts and so on. Does not exist, didn't exist. So where does stuff like this come from? I want to show you this brand new software. It was just revealed this last week. And what they are doing now is selling software. Ostensibly is for people building games, but you could see that this would have applications far beyond gaming. You could see why movie producers, commercial producers, and even people who are in the misinformation business would love this.
I could be one of many. 주인공にだってなれる
Je pourrais être architecte,
ou guide.
Quizá un artista. You create the narrative.
I am metahuman.
This allows you to create metahumans of any ethnicity. You can also then match voices with it that will move the metahuman's facial features according to the volume and the emotion that comes with the sound. And I think one of the more interesting parts of this is that the parts of this that interest me the most is when you have metahumans who say things. So let's say, for example, we have a metahuman that looks like Putin, or we have a metahuman that looks like Biden, or maybe we have metahumans that look like both of them, and they say something incendiary, something warlike. Imagine the problems that would come if it was completely convincing that they said what they said. And I think a lot of people were concerned that when Donald Trump was in office, because he would say things so unexpected that anything was plausible, that he might have said that. And I think I know people were very concerned that this kind of technology could become plausible, that he might be mistaken for having said something that in fact was metahuman like this. This is going to be widely used. I can tell you that Hollywood is very interested in this. Why? Well, think about the expenses that they do without when they don't have to have all those extras, when they can have people of any ethnicity, any age in the background, foreground, even if they had stars who were perfectly matched with the audiences. There was a rock and roll band, a pop music band in Japan a few years ago that actually had one meta singer that the public voted on all the qualities of the additional singer, the last singer of the band. And so they said the public actually chose the final singer, who became by far the most favored person in the band. So these are the kinds of things that are coming. And as I said, I think in part 2 of our conversation, my concern is that having seen all of these kinds of things that are so easy to fake, my concern is that you will increasingly become skeptical, not even skeptical, cynical of everything, and that you won't believe anything. And therein lies the problem. I don't want you to be cynical. I want you to be skeptical. I want you to just say, look, I need evidence and I'm open to evidence. I need truth and I'm open to truth, even if it's not what I want it to be. But you have to be open to the truth. So if a crime was committed, could someone make it look like you, Edward said? Well, I suppose. I suppose that you could have, I mean, imagine just for a minute that you've got a Ring doorbell and you wanted to create a metahuman that puts you at the scene of the burglary. Yeah, I suppose that could happen. It won't happen today with today's technology, but it's not hard to imagine that it would become consumer friendly enough that that sort of thing could happen. Sure. Um, so we're going to need all sorts of identifiers, aren't we? We're going to need facial recognition and perhaps even recognition of your movement, your gait, all sorts of things to identify you. It won't be enough just to see your image. Uh, and that's kind of the problem, right? We're so acclimated to the idea that, well, the video shows them here, it must be true. It's just not. It's not true anymore. You can't, that's not enough. And that's my big message for you, is that we are already at an inflection point right now where seeing is not enough. Seeing cannot be believing because it's too easy to alter it. I've shown you tools in the sessions today, in all of our sessions today, how easy it is, for example, even using something as simple as Adobe Premiere to be able to get rid of images, even in moving video, by using content aware fill, the new tool that the 2021 version of Adobe Premiere allows you to have. And you know, Premiere is $59. I mean, it's consumer level feature that anybody could use. I mean, I could teach you to do that in a period of minutes. I could teach you to do that. It's so simple. That's what it's meant to be, simple. So sure, you can alter all sorts of things. The easiest thing to alter, though, Edward, is not to add but to subtract. Subtracting things from images is infinitely easier than adding things, because when you add things, you have to start adding shadows, foregrounds, all sorts of things. By the way, the easiest thing to add when you're going to add is text. So when you see somebody holding up a sign, when you see somebody with something on their shirt, bumper sticker, church sign, McDonald's sign, whatever it is, whenever you see something bizarre that's on a sign, that's letters, I don't trust any of that. Why? Because it's the easiest thing to do is to add a font. Something with a font is easy to match. So just don't trust anything that turns on you believing a sign until you prove it, because it's probably not real. I can't tell you how many times I've seen fake photographs used in the news where somebody says, you know, look how stupid they are. They can't even spell so and so. And it's not. It's they're holding up a sign that's been photoshopped. So actually, there used to be a couple of fake sign generator websites where you could generate fake church signs, fake McDonald's signs, fake Chick-fil-A signs. And you could just type in what you wanted and it would put it on the marquee for you in a very believable way. So those things are reasonably common. All right, I'm looking through. And I don't see any other questions. Is there anything else? If not, I just want to thank you guys for what you do. I want to make sure you hear this. First, thanks to STN for holding up this craft and trade. But I want to thank you, school teachers, for what you do. The work that you do is beyond incredible. I can tell you that as a grandfather, my two girls are dependent on their teachers to do something that you certainly did not sign up for, but it's what you're confronted with. You're teaching remotely. You're teaching under conditions that you shouldn't have to be teaching under, but that's where we find ourselves. And so here you are learning more so you can be even better. And I just can't thank you enough for what you do. It's a real gift. And you know, I can be of help to you. You know where I am? I'm in St. Petersburg, Florida. But if I can help you, it's just tompkins@pointer.org. I'll put that up right now in the chat box. And give me a yell if I can help. Tompkins@pointer.org. All right, guys, back to you. And I'll see you on the flip side. Maybe next year, maybe we'll be back in person, huh?
Yes, Al, thank you so much. This is Ken from the back of the room with STN. Yes, we're talking about being in person next year. Details to come. I am looking forward to that. I'm sure everyone's looking forward to that. But in the meantime, thank you for everyone who's been taking part in the virtual convention, the sessions, and the contest. Thank you so much. There, of course, is a closing ceremony at the end of the week, which you all know about. Al, Thank you. And that is it. Good night.